Agriculture is the future. How then do we secure that future? We have seen the journey of the coffee bean from soil to harvest, but the most interesting parts of that journey lie in the messy bits in the middle, before it gets to the roasters, ready to be packaged, ready for us to consume. We're currently sitting on some of your coffee bags right now.
Yeah,
so,
that's right.
First question I'm going to ask you, what inspired owning or starting a coffee plantation, I should say?
Yeah, it's not an easy question to
Yeah.
begin with. I mean, with any farming enterprise, you need to have diversity. So if you're just relying on a few crops, and one of those fails, you can get into a lot of trouble, cash flow, etc.
Yeah.
So back in the 90s, I think it was, Zambian government plus World Bank was looking at helping to diversify the farming industry in Zambia, started making loans available to farmers expressly for coffee. As you've seen today, there's a lot of inputs that you need to go into, which you might just not have the money kind of lying around.
Yeah.
So without that, it's very hard to invest. And if you go to your normal banks, the payback periods are very short, interest rates are very high. So generally you can't afford to do it. So that's kind of what we were looking at the time.
What would you say is the biggest expense in terms of running a coffee plantation?
I mean, the big problem you face is that it takes a long time for the crop to come through. So you don't just plant it in the same season and harvest.
Yeah.
So it takes almost a year in the nursery.
A lot of time and patience. If you don't have patience,
Exactly.
Yeah, and then another few years in the field. So it takes at least 3 years before you can harvest anything. That first harvest is called a fly crop, meaning you only get maybe half of expected yield. So you've got all your sunk costs for 3 years. So your fertilizer costs, your electricity costs, your labor costs, it's all going out and there's nothing coming back in.
So you've been in this for 37 years, correct?
Yes, please.
That's a long time. It's a very long time.
Yes.
So we have 2 types of coffee bean, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, please.
So which one do we farm?
We farm Arabica coffee. Yes, please.
Which one of these is better to grow, would you say?
In Zambia, Arabica is best.
What would you say is the hardest part of the coffee growth process?
Yeah, I think the stage of production, when it starts bearing some fruits, that's the hardest stage.
I've never actually seen like a real coffee bean before.
Sure.
I'm going to dissect it now.
Okay.
That's your coffee bean.
That is the stage where it needs a lot of nutrients, a lot of water, and diseases. That's when we experience white borer and leaf miner.
I was actually going to start ask you to elaborate on some of the issues that you have.
If you leave it like this, the white borer will migrate to these other plants and damage them.
It's done.
Yes,
Over.
what is required to remove this coffee and then remove the old plant, uproot it,
And
burn it.
I see. The coffee beans aren't even red or green anymore. They're
Yes,
yellow.
Yes.
The big issue is that you need water. So yes, we've got a rainy season, but for the rest of the year, you have to irrigate. That's the filter house, so all the water has to go through there first. We've got pressure gauges there, we've got gate valves to kind of direct the coffee here, direct the coffee there. because everywhere where you're standing underneath here, there's a network of pipes, which obviously you don't see, but without them, this wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
So we did that obviously decades ago. So anyone trying to get into coffee, we've got to think about how to get them the irrigation they need. Here we're lucky we've got boreholes. Maybe other places have got lakes, other places rivers, but you need to get the water from there
into the
exactly, pumped into the plantation.
This is why they say it's expensive to do coffee. What would you say is currently lacking in the coffee farming industry in Zambia specifically?
Sadly, the number of farms has declined. So the kind of technical know-how of how to do it, there's fewer and fewer people who know.
Yeah.
It is a complicated crop, and you need that kind of support network around you to do it successfully.
How hard would you say is it for farmers to transition into farming coffee, and why would you say that maybe most people don't really survive over the years?
Yeah, it's hard. Like I said, the issue is where you're going to get the money from to invest. I mean, yes, any business should be profitable, but the profits you make in any year are not really enough to kind of set up a brand new enterprise. So you always go to the bank. But banks have to be understanding that, especially with coffee, you're not going to get any money back for at least 4 years. So you need a bank loan with a very low interest and very long payment terms. And generally that's not...
It's not realistic.
No, it's not realistic. So when the World Bank came in conjunction with government, it was much more accessible. But their terms were still bad. So you still had issues. So that's the biggest problem farmers are facing.
Since you've been in this for 37 years, what's the most enjoyable part of coffee farming?
Processing time.
The processing time.
Yes. Because during processing, that's when we normally know that at last we're now making money. Yes.
What's the difference between dry processing and wet processing?
Dry processing is a process where we process dry coffee into a sellable or stuff. Coffee is being fed here underneath by help of the blower. It feeds into this hopper before it enters into the adding machine. This is the adding machine, which removes husks. Wet processing, it's the time when we pulp coffee, ferment it, grade it, and take it for drying.
I see.
Which squeezes coffee and separates the beans from, the pulp from the beans.
This is considered a bean, right, or no?
Yes, it is a bean. Yes.
And something interesting that I learned today is that birds don't actually eat the coffee beans when you lay them out.
Yes, exactly.
What lessons do you think we could learn from like Brazil, Kenya, Ethiopia in terms of farming coffee, now that you've picked on that?
I mean, all of those places, people have generally heard that they grow coffee. But who's heard that Zambia grows coffee?
I had no idea.
Exactly.
Up until doing my research, I had no idea.
And the coffee we grow is really good. The quality is excellent.
Yeah.
So there's a huge kind of gap on the marketing side.
Yeah.
But we are a small industry. So if we were a big industry, people would know more. But that's when government can step in and help and maybe spend more money on marketing, etc.
So now I'm starting to understand why coffee has a distinct taste in every region. It's like of what's going into it.
What would you hope that the future of coffee in Zambia would look like?
Many more farmers.
Yeah.
Smallholders, medium farms, big farms. The potential is huge.
I will actually be able to appreciate a cup of coffee now. I won't just be walking into my kitchen and pouring it. Now that I've seen everything that goes into it, it's going to be a completely different experience. So
well, you're very welcome.
Thank
so, I
you.
mean, hopefully this will get the message out there
Definitely.
that we can do it in Zambia
Yeah.
and we should do more.
Definitely.
Coffee is one product that shapes our society and not only contributes to the country's economy, but boosts its prestige among other coffee-growing countries. Depending on which region across the globe you're in, they might all have a different language as to how they describe their coffee. But one thing is for sure, it goes beyond the mug, it's a way of life.